Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, the Nerd Man, and today we're going to be talking I'm going to talk about Armie Hammer first because actually I've only got a small update on the other subject of the title of this, but I wanted to really to discuss the Armie Hammer situation. I've been meaning to do this for some time. But I wanted to give an intro first into both why I've decided to talk about this, but also just to make clear about something, because I don't want to seem like somebody who sits around defending the powerful men who, these kind of powerful men who can hide behind their, wealth and money and do these terrible, terrible things to women. I am inclined to believe the women. I think most of the time women are shown to tell the truth, but there are occurrences women do lie, and there's very specific reasons that they lie. And usually it's to do with sexual experiences that they're ashamed of and that they can't comprehend in their own mind that they would have consented to that particular sexual experience. So they create a narrative in which this person must have abused them. I think this most often happens to men of color, women who end up with a Muslim guy or one night, or they end up with a black guy, or they end up, with some guy from, a foreigner, and they're white and they're wealthy and they're middle class or some other kind of thing. And they create a narrative in their head where this didn't happen. That he must have abused me, he must have assaulted me. It can't have been true that I consented to sleep with this person. And I think this is a readily acknowledged. I mean, we know the history with black males, going back to Emmett Till, and yet people still have this contradictory idea that women always tell the truth. Well, if women always tell the truth, according to the kind of identity politics that we now live in, what is your take on all the falsely accused black men who were incarcerated and later it turned out they were absolutely innocent, and it was something that the women had made up to deal with, I can't tell my family I slept with a black guy. I can't to let my friends know that I slept with him. Oh, we saw you going home with him. What happened? Oh, he I don't want to admit that I slept with a black guy. That's shameful. And that's not necessary. And it's terrible for the women to do. Absolutely. But that's a societal issue as well. It's the way people of color are perceived by society. And this is why this happens. But I'll tell you also who this happens to. This happens a lot to unattractive men. Situations that ordinarily would be flirting if it was somebody the woman was attracted to turn into something a lot more sinister if it's someone they're not attracted to, right? They could be talking and having a conversation about whatever it may be, and the person might say something cheeky, say something a bit, meant in jest, like the man, and they're not attractive. And women don't, you can see they don't laugh. It's their the natural instinct, I suppose, to ward off men that they don't see worthy of themselves or whatever. And they can target those guys sometimes. And, if it was a handsome guy doing that to them, it'd be different. If it's an unattractive male, suddenly it's creepy. I say this to lay the ground for what I'm about to say next, because I do think women tell the truth about these situations way more than they don't, because I don't see why anyone would just come up with this, usually just off the top of their heads. It's really not something that people tend to naturally do. You don't naturally tend to go, oh, I was robbed and stabbed, or I was, or something happened to me, and just make it up. You don't tend to do that when something bad has happened to you. You don't tend to show the signs of something terrible having happened to you if nothing happened to you. It's just psychologically not something human beings who aren't complete psychopaths can easily do, or sociopaths. So I say this as an introduction because I don't want to be, I've come on and I've been defending against certain accusations. And the reason I defend against these accusations, against whether it's a white man, a black man, a rich man, a poor man, I don't care who it is. I still believe in due process, because even though women tell the truth most of the time, it is also the case that some of them lie. It's a fact. Emmett Till tells us that that's a fact. The woman is lying till this very day about Emmett Till. Still, she won't clear his name. They have reasons for lying, sometimes, women. That woman in particular had a reason for lying. Women back in the 70s, 60s, 50s, it was even worse back then. You go out with somebody, especially in America, you go out with a black person or an Arabic person or an Asian person, and it's like your family will disown you. So what better to say than, oh, they abused me, daddy. I couldn't have slept with them. They abused me. So women do, for whatever reasons, one reason or another. I've explained a couple. I'm sure there's many, many more. Maybe mental health issues. Maybe that they've been abused before, and they're now projecting they're projecting the abuse they've suffered onto another situation. So there are reasons why, even though women tell the truth about these things most of the time, there are some, outlier examples of when women have, for whatever reason, as I said, it could be mental health, it could be, a race issue, and they don't want to admit to their family that they've been with somebody outside of their race, so they create a scenario where this man has abused them instead. It could be that they have been abused themselves before, that they actually have been abused, and they're now projecting the pain and suffering of that particular abuse they suffered before onto another male who is an easier target for them. Maybe the initial male was somebody wealthy and privileged, and they couldn't actually bring a case towards him, and then they have another man who's a bit more vulnerable and doesn't have the means to protect himself so much, and they can take out their vengeance, their feeling of being slighted on this other innocent male. These kind of things happen. It happens because we're human beings. Men do this as well. Men lie about stuff that's happened to them. It's not just women, obviously. Men lie about stuff that's happened to them, crimes that other people have done against them, which is just definitely untrue. And they have all types of reasons for lying. That, oh, he stole my money. He was the one who stole the money. He was the one who, whatever it may be. So again, I say this because I've been defending a bunch of very, very privileged, rich men, like Josh Whedon, and I've even talked about Marilyn Manson, where I didn't defend him, but I certainly was looking through the case from an objective set of eyes, in that I'm not going to immediately just go along with immediately just judging him and condemning him without, due process. He is still innocent until proven guilty. And I believe that of everyone. I believe that's important because sometimes women don't tell the truth about these things. That being said, I don't want to be here on this channel defending privileged men who can hide behind their privilege and abuse women. I have no interest in doing that. And I think that might be the case with Josh Whedon. I definitely think that might be the case with Marilyn Manson. Absolutely think it might be the case. And I think that might be the case with Armie Hammer. I think he might have hidden behind his privilege and been slowly building up to abusing certain women that he sees as easily victimized. That being said, I still want to go over some of these accusations that have been claimed against Armie Hammer, because I think they're fascinating. I will defend anyone in terms of having their day in court, due process, whether that be man or woman or anything in between. I'm going to actually do a video on Amber Heard and how I think she's being crucified unfairly by the internet. And it's going to be the most unpopular video in the world, or never come to fruition or anything. But again, she deserves the benefit of due process, to let the courts play out and everything, all the evidence come to light, and have people make their judgment on that. But I don't think she's been given completely the benefit of the doubt. Just as I don't think, Johnny Depp was given the benefit of the doubt when things first started. People rushed to judgment against him, and they may be rushing to judgment against her now. But in any case, let us talk about Armie Hammer. So we're going to start with a bunch of texts that Armie Hammer actually sent to some women. Now, the details of this are strange and bizarre, to say the least. The details of what he supposedly did are strange and bizarre. They involve cannibalism. And if you're triggered by anything, I'd really think about that and whether you want to carry on with this, because some very disturbing things are said. But what are we to make of them? And how are we to interpret them? So these are some things that Armie Hammer texted. So the first one is, hello, Dominastia is here. Recently, I have heard many accusations against me. You called me a liar, you insulted me. I am tired of this story and will now finish it with. And then she goes on to show some texts that Armie Hammer sent to her. So let's, you know what I can do? So first it says, you see these texts by Armie Hammer, who is on the left, and then you see the text back from her. So it seems that Armie Hammer was into some kind of BDSM kind of group, some kind of kink group. And I don't know the exact, situation, how involved he was in that. But certainly he had divorced from his wife, and he recently, was let loose with all his celebrity to pursue the young women of Hollywood and also indulge in his fantasies. So these are the texts that he sent. So I want you to come to Montreal and be my slave for a weekend at least. I also don't know if that is safe, I need to consider what is safe and also my conscience. Is that okay with you? That's what I wanted to talk, sir. What would you like to say? Any questions I can answer for you? Yes, sir. Give me a few minutes. Okay. When we began to communicate, you said you wanted me to fly to Los Angeles. That was the reason why I was in America, but you have not met me. I understood. I understood. But you have not met me. I understood the reason, but I was hurt. If you immediately said that it is impossible now, I would not be offended, because I want honesty and openness, sir, that will allow me to trust you completely, sir. I am not a teenager. I don't need promises. I need truth. I like everything, sir, even without a real meeting. I'm sorry for confusing you and leaving you hanging in Los Angeles. I had every intention of meeting you, but then something terrible happened in my personal life, and I was falling apart. I won't get into details, but it's almost, the thing about all of this is I kind of feel perverse even reading it. This is so blatantly someone's personal shit. And I'm just like, this is what makes me uncomfortable about this case. I'm just like, what am I reading here? This is his personal text to another individual that have no bearing on any kind of crime. And I know the idea is to give context, but as a crime, I will find out later, I think a crime of some kind was suggested. But again, this is so... why is this on social media? Why am I reading this on social media? Why do I have access to Armie Hammer's personal thoughts and information like this? Again, I understand giving context, and we'll see a bit more, but this is so banal. Like, this is his text to a woman he's trying to chat up, and he's being creepy as fuck. Okay, so I won't get into details, but I guess it's important to read through all of this. I won't get into details, but it's almost cost me everything. I also had a crisis of conscience. I want to fuck you so badly, but also knew how badly I'd feel afterwards. I was torn. I should have been more open with you about my process. Why this is on social media is beyond me. It's just like, it blows my mind. You could... I guess it's not a good time to be famous. Every other time was a very fantastic time to be famous. And again, I don't want to protect, men who do violence and aggression towards women at all. I don't want them protected. But it's so bizarre to me that she has receipts of him being extremely creepy, but it doesn't seem like she isn't into it herself. Of course, this is just the beginning. But it's just really, really hard to read, honestly. I don't like reading these kind of things about people's personal shit. It's just very bizarre. It's only because of what I'm doing here that I'm actually doing this. I understand everything, sir. I just wanted the truth. Let's start over, Sir Arnie. Starting over. Yes, good idea. Full honesty and truth. I like what you said about not being a teenager and not needing promises. Haha. I'm glad to hear it, sir. And yes, I am not a teenager. Haha. Getting the NDA now. Once I send it to you, print it, sign it, and send it back. So he's already said he's got a non-disclosure agreement so that you can't send this out. And I presume she signed it. Okay, sir. Thank you for honest talk, sir. How was your day? I was able to please you. The NDA is a bad sign of things to come, to be fair. That he has to have an NDA. Well, not necessarily, actually, but it's not a good sign, put it that way. But with how people are these days, I've never understood BDSM kink kind of stuff. You know, a little playful amount of it, but not anything serious in sex. So all of this is just like to me. So maybe I just don't have a good enough imagination. Maybe women really love this stuff, but I just, it doesn't do much for me. How was your day? I was able to please you. Yeah, your pictures pleased me very much and filled me with ideas of what to do to you once you are healthy. Other than that, my day was boring. All I had to do today was go to the gym. I have work later tonight, but today has been slow. And how is my little kitten feeling? How is going in the hospital? How is it going in the hospital? Okay, so she just cut off from what she was talking about there and then goes to something else. Oh, okay, she's kind of come back. Maybe not. Okay, so this is the one I really wanted to talk about in terms of the text that was sent to about Armie Hammer. So this is a bunch of texts that he sent to somebody that has no context to it. So you don't know how the other person was responding. So this is just a bunch of texts that he's sending to other people. Now, again, none of these are things that I can imagine saying in 100 million years. I can't imagine anybody normal or even sane sending them in 100 million years. They aren't criminal, but they are suggestive of a type of mind state that definitely would be able to do things that are disturbing to women. And I don't want to take away from that, but they don't prove that he did those disturbing things. And one thing I want to use this in relation to is in the context of what's happened to Armie Hammer, just of the basis of this stuff coming out. Because what somebody's done is sent a bunch of personal texts and information that clearly he never in a million years wanted anyone in the industry to have any insight or go within 100 miles of these texts or you know, intimate details of his fantasies. Right? He never wanted that. And now they've gone out to them and they've all dropped him from films, from, you know, he's being recast in movies, everything. Because he has a kink, which is all that this says, that he has a kink that women who consented to also involve in that kink basically went along with. You know, whether they now say, looking back at it, they were uncomfortable, you know, or looking back at it, they didn't really consent to any of this. You know, he didn't, he suggested things, he said things that were unconscionably ridiculous and frightening, quite frankly. But what has that got to do with his career until some kind of criminal charge is set against him? How can you just take him from society for having thoughts, as abhorrent as those thoughts may be? Because that's what they are when you text it privately to a person and you trust them to keep this private between them and not use this against you. I think he's an idiot for sending this to these women. Let's be clear. It's hard to feel sorry for Armie Hammer when you'd send this kind of bullshit to women, knowing you're a famous person, knowing, you know, you must know, like, dude, maybe somebody will bring this out about you, sell it to the paper or something like that, get a bunch of money. This is a gold mine. You best believe if somebody gave me 100,000 to release these texts of Armie Hammer, I'd fucking do it. 100,000, 150,000. If he was sending me these texts, goddamn straight, I'd do it. So I don't even blame these women, even if they are greedy. He's stupid for sending these messages. But beyond that, just looking at it purely from a legal standpoint, my concern here is very simple. It's very, very simple. His label has dropped him. Everyone in his professional life has dropped him over a bunch of private texts that he sent privately to people who, by their own admission, consented to at least 90, well, consented to the sex, the sexual practices that he was interested in doing with them. But now they're going back and saying they didn't completely consent. They kind of consented, but they didn't completely consent. That's perfectly plausible and possible. But the studio, the agent, everybody who works with Armie Hammer, they could suspend him until an investigation is done to see if these women have a case and, fully investigate this, see if there's any crime done, see if anything, but they didn't do that. They dropped him straight away. No warning, no, your life is over. Your dream of being an actor in Hollywood, done. You're this talented actor, and some women have just released private information about you, information that you didn't wish to share with the world, that you wished only to share with them, and they've released it out onto the world. And your career, it's not like he was texting these abhorrent thoughts on Twitter. He sent it privately to an individual. Again, absolutely idiotic. Why you think anyone would keep that private is beyond me, Armie Hammer. This is a gold mine for these women. They're like, oh my God, if you did something to them horrible, they have every right to come out with this. If you didn't do something to them horrible, they'd be stupid not to come out with this and make some kind of money off it. Either way, this is your fault, Armie Hammer. You have no one to blame but yourself. That being said, from a legal standpoint, I do still have some issues. I have the issue very specifically with the fact this was never meant to be known to the public. So him being cancelled for things that he would say privately, thoughts that he would have, intimate ideas and sexual fantasies that he would have with a singular partner who isn't supposed to divulge this information to the rest of the world, that he could be sacked and taken from his label and all of these things just because they've come out and said, he did these things to me, which, I consented to, is, it blows my mind, my imagination in this day and age. And specifically, why doesn't the label just suspend him? That's what I want to know. Why not suspend Armie Hammer and then do an investigation, run an investigation yourself if you have to find out exactly what happened and see if there's anything there. And then if it's truly beyond anything and he's guilty, get rid of him then. But before, that's a level of cancel culture, because where does it go next? If you can be eliminated from your job, your label, your everything for texts with no substantiated other proof to back it up, I find that very kind of weird. So here's some of the things that Armie Hammer said. Oh my God, that just made me hard, and it makes me confused as to why. Is that even possible? We don't even know what he's talking about here. She hasn't shared what she showed him, basically. So hard thinking of holding your heart in my hand and controlling when it beats. Is that even possible? So hard thinking of holding your heart in my hand and controlling it when it beats. Very bizarre. I'm 100% a cannibal. I want to eat you. Fuck, that's scary to admit. I've never admitted that before. I've cut the heart out of a living animal before and eaten it while still warm. Jesus, this guy. I don't know if he was on drugs or whatever, but that last thing is really ridiculous. I mean, really fucking ridiculous. But we never saw the back and forth. That could have been a joke that came off of what she texted before. So again, we go into something else. Need your help, ASAP kitten. You around? I'll phone you later. Yes. How may I be of help, Daddy? Oh my God! When you call me like it, I get so horny. I need to drink your blood. Why the distance? I am yours, Daddy. I will help you. So she's again encouraging it. He said, I need to drink your blood. Why not say, dude, you don't need to drink my blood. And in fact, furthermore, I ain't calling you anymore. You're weird. Why not say that? No, she says, I'm your daddy. I will help you. I need you to rent us a place and set it up with a list of things I'll mail you about. Of course, where? I'm going to be so naughty and kinky with you there. Oh, the possibilities. Ha ha ha. I think there's one thing that is shown by one of the girls that suggests something very, very bad indeed. That, in terms of the consent of this situation. I'm just going to check that everything's still going. I thought about you and and you being dommed and so goddamn much the last few years. I have thought about you so much. It's been so hard not talking to you. I know I needed to, but it was so tough. I don't know. Is she responding to him here? You are the goddamn. You're the God's damn standard I hold women to in terms of kink and enjoyment of. You set the bar too high, right? So I presume in this that the woman has already had some kind of kinky encounter with him. You are like the Michael Phelps of everyone else just doesn't have what you have. Wow. Okay. Sorry that came spilling out, and I feel badly. If I said too much, I'm sorry. It sounds like one continuous thought. So maybe that was actually, a series of things. Every time I have someone in the since you the only way I can if I pretend I'm in the I'm gonna talk like that from now because I really don't like this. So really, and then he says, yes. Why is that? It's incredible. It's incredible frustrating. I don't know. You were the most intense and extreme version of that I ever had. You on the floor with against you. Everything else seemed boring. You see, this is terrible. I felt like a god. I've never felt such power or intensity. Now, this is really where I was like, wow, this guy. Again, what do you say to that? I mean, if she consented to that somehow, that behavior somehow, and you text her about it and told her, how much it turned you on, then you're an idiot. You've given her evidence, so much evidence. We still haven't confirmed this is from Armie Hammer, but it pretty much looks like it's from Armie Hammer. This is like pure receipts. But you crying and screaming with me standing over you, and you think that's normal. You think what, this kind of behavior, it's just like, I don't care what the situation is, you just don't do it. But I don't know about kink communities. I have never, BDSM, all of this kind of thing. Maybe there is situations where people do something like that. So it's very, very hard to judge from this standpoint. I can only look at it and judge it from the standpoint of, it seems very, very disturbing, but the man deserves his day in court. Did she agree to doing any of this? I mean, if she didn't, I'm presuming that, you're not Armie Hammer. You don't take someone, RAPE them with a knife against them, only to just let them go the next day and think it's normal and you're going to get away with it. I mean, you certainly don't text them and, say, oh, this was the best night of sex I ever had. I presume that you don't do that if that was a non-consensual situation. But then again, let's see how she responds. Okay, she doesn't put the response. That's important. She never put the response. And I think that's not good. In terms of her story. I believe her. I really do. Given the text, I believe her. But again, to be fair to Armie Hammer, this has not been substantiated. Everything that he's been dropped from has been done on the basis of a very one-sided narrative that is being painted against him. You just live to obey and be my slave. I will own you. That's my soul, my brain, my spirit, my body. Would you come and be my property till you die? If I wanted to cut off one of your toes and keep it with me in my pocket, so I always had a piece of you in my possession. Let's see what she says. Does she answer to any of these and show that she's uncomfortable with this? I want to see everything. That's what I'm looking for here. That she answered to something and said she was uncomfortable with him saying this stuff to her or imagining this stuff about her. It makes her uncomfortable. Where is this? How does she behave towards him? I don't know. So I don't know if she feeds into this, what I see as a sickness, to be honest, in terms of his fantasies. These are paraphilic notions that he's having, fantasies that he's having, that I'm wondering, is she feeding into them? And you don't know that from these texts, because she's not responding to some of the most damning things. If she had said, after you said crying and screaming bit of the text, if she had said something like, I didn't enjoy that, then there would have been something there. Or, I don't want to talk about that, Arnie. If she had said, I really don't want to talk about that, or I don't want to talk to you right now, or something to show that she was uncomfortable with that line of discussion that he was sending to her, then it would paint a different picture. I'm wondering why Armie Hammer hasn't sent. I'm sure he's building a case with his lawyers right now. I want to see everything. I want to see your brain, your blood, your organs, every part of you. I would definitely bite it 100%, or try to something it, not sure which. I guess F it, probably both. If you into a vegetative state, I'd keep you, feed you, wash you, and keep you. Bloody hell, this guy. Till you are sore and broken. Jesus. So yeah, that was basically all of the text that was sent. Obviously, you saw one side of the text, you didn't see the responses to it. And that's what the woman put up, as opposed to putting up both the response as well. How do we feel about all of this? I mean, as I said, very stupid. I think it's his fault. I don't think he has anyone to blame but himself. I don't feel very sorry for him, mainly because of the stupidity of sending out these texts when you've been doing this kinky stuff with these women. Now, I don't know if he actually ended up abusing them as well. I've heard stories of them being starved, and also one getting something carved into her skin near her private parts. And that's also disturbing. Again, it's about, I don't think you should be able to consent to somebody cutting you up. I think that's a step too far. Branding you or doing anything like that, I think that's a step too far. But again, if they were in agreement with each other on doing this, the context kind of changes. And there is an argument to be said that, sometimes women may feel uncomfortable expressing this. They're there with this handsome Armie Hammer guy who's very, very charming and rich and everything they dream of, beautiful blonde hair, blue-eyed, gorgeous movie star. Why would you want to spoil that by opening your big mouth and saying you're not into something sexually? Well, here's the issue. It's hard to do that sometimes, I suppose, but you've got to start doing it. You really do. Otherwise, it's hard to see how you have a true, genuine, unmitigated, uncontroversial case of abuse against you if you are consenting to abuse that isn't necessarily over the line of being criminal, that falls into the line of some kind of BDSM or sexual act. Of course, if you consent to abuse like somebody beating the crap out of you and punching you and kicking you in the ribs and breaking your hand or something like that, you can't consent to that. That's abuse. That's assault. It's an actual physical assault. Sex gets a little bit more tricky, and what people are turned on by, what people do sexually with each other, it's a little bit more tricky. Whipping, all of these kind of things. But bottom line, I don't feel sorry for Armie Hammer. I do think this is his fault. I do believe these women when they say he, crossed the line of consent with them. And I applaud them for coming out. I wish they had have shown both sides of the conversation and maybe be more open and to younger women who may be in a similar situation and vulnerable, to say to them, look, you have to be able to be strong enough to say no, you're not into this, you're not happy with this, even if it's with the guy of your dreams. But anyway, that's me. That's all I have to say on this particular situation, but thank you for listening. I'm gonna